Only one group dares to challenge this intergalactic threat, the Super Friends.
Hey guys, Rez the Collector here with another episode of Mattel vs. DC, Battle of the Supergirls. This is episode 5. I wanted to start out here with just a quick look at them. You can see I have the Mattel here on the left and the DC here on the right, and then of course I've got the in-package DC there behind. I just picked up, well, it was the second technically, it was an in-package, but the package was pretty destroyed, but I picked it up to open it because I'm trying to have that entire set both in package and loose. I'm now only 2 figures away. I just need Doomsday and the Kryptonian Life Suit Superman. Before I actually get into the Battle Royale here of Mattel vs. DC, I want to talk a little bit about the costume and the era that we're looking at here. As you can see, this is the white t-shirt and blue skirt version of Supergirl, and I never thought this should have been in this set, because this is the Death of Superman and Return set. All the figures in this set are based on that era except for her. At the time that we had that storyline, the Supergirl in question at that point was the Matrix Supergirl. And she wore a more standardized Supergirl costume with blue and red. This, I believe, and I could be wrong, and if I am, I'm sure I'll be corrected, this costume debuted in the animated series, which was big at the time of its release, I believe. But that's probably the choosing of going here, was to tie in more with that. But this Supergirl really shouldn't have been in this set, because that's not the costume that was represented at the time. So yeah, I was never a huge fan of this suit to begin with. I mean, the Superman the animated series was okay, but it was a little too kiddish, and I was a little too old at the point that it came out. And not to say that I don't own it, because I do. Found a good deal on it at Disc Replay. But yeah, I was never a huge fan of this costume, and I really don't feel that it should have been in this set. Now that being said, let's move on, because while the costume hasn't exactly grown on me, I really like the figure, at least one of them. And let's go ahead and get into that. I'm going to go ahead and take the in-package one out of here so we can focus on the 2 loose ones. And we're going to shift down a little bit. Apologize for shakiness. Alright. So, they're approximately the same height. The Mattel is actually a little taller. You can't tell that because I do have the DC one on her base. I guess let's just start from the top down. The hair. Much better on the DC Direct version. The Mattel version looks clumpy. It looks almost like claymation hair. It doesn't look natural in any way. The color is trying to go for a dirtier blonde, but Mattel has a habit of, when they try to do dirty blonde, just making the hair look dirty. And that's how I've come to think of this girl, this Supergirl version, as Trailer Park Supergirl. The skin tone is far too dark. She has a very ethnic look to her, whereas the other one doesn't. I mean, her skin tone is matching the comic. The face is much better. The face in the DC Direct looks nice. I mean, but the Mattel looks like Trailer Park Supergirl. I mean, she looks like, you know, Uncle Cousin was her father, whatever. Just that she does not have a pretty face. And even the DC Direct one has got a raised eyebrow, almost like, I know you're not trying to look like me. Down into the costume itself, I'm not a huge fan of the cape on the Mattel. God, I'm just ripping the Mattel apart. I'm not a huge fan of this cape. she has really weak ankles. It's folded over and weird, and it's that kind of soft material that Mattel had gone to, but it's just, it doesn't in any way look like a normal cape would look, even blowing in the wind. I mean, it's not a good cape, and I know that they've used this cape for multiple versions of heroes. I've seen it on other female heroes, and I think even a couple male, I'm not too sure, but it's not a good cape. The t-shirts are very similar. The S is a little more standardized on the Mattel. It's a little more rounded on the DC Direct. The t-shirt's actually a little higher on the DC Direct as well, but her bust line looks more natural on the DC Direct. It doesn't really on the Mattel. It doesn't look natural. It's weird looking. Also, when it comes down into the stomach area, the Mattel almost looks like she's got a little pregnancy pooch going on. And, well, the DC Direct has a little bit, but that's more of the way the back is arched. And that looks a little more natural. She just kind of looks like she's about 2.5, 3 months pregnant and starting to show. Also, she has on a much shorter skirt. She's got basically a quicker skirt on, whereas it's not exactly long on the DC Direct. It is a much more appropriate skirt length, because that's almost like mid-thigh, whereas that is not. Articulation is very similar on both characters. Of course, Mattel does have a little bit of extra articulation in the legs, and Mattel does have ankle joints, which fortunately the DC does not. I really liked ankle joints when they first came out because I thought it was so cool. It made them so much more posable, but as I've collected figures with them, it's more of a hindrance than anything else. If the ankle joints are tight, that's great. They are wonderful to pose, but eventually every figure is going to get loose ankle joints no matter what. If you're changing the display at all, if you're looking for more of an articulated comic book display, and you're posing them, those joints are eventually going to loosen, and it's going to make it extremely difficult to get these figures to stand. Because even if I were to have her on a stand, the ankle joint is so loose, I'm holding her foot flat right now, and she's still just falling right over. So, like I said, articulation very similar, except for the that Y joint in the legs and the ankle articulation. Now, one thing I will say for the Mattel that I do like more than the DC is the bootlaces. The bootlaces look very natural. I love the little steel ring holes here for the laces. On the DC, they are just painted, everything's just painted a flat red. So I do like that Mattel actually took the time to paint each individual lace, and that it makes them stand out. The boots look much more natural. They're a little bit darker here on the sole. So they do look more real, I guess, than the just straight flat red boots on the DC Direct figure. Now, when it comes down to it, that's the only thing I like about the Mattel figure more than the DC. And for those of you who don't know, the DC figure was actually sculpted by Tim Bruckner, who was an amazing sculptor. I didn't know this actually until I posted it on my Facebook when I picked up the second one of her so that I could open it, and he posted on my timeline saying, "Hey, it's my Supergirl." So, very cool. Tim did an amazing job on her. Don't know who sculpted the Mattel one, but obviously they've never seen a girl. So there we have it. That is Mattel versus DC, Episode 5. I actually went into probably a little more detailed than I have normally on these because I really dislike that Mattel figure, and I really want to highlight how nice this DC one is. Especially, I showed you the cape on the Mattel. Look at the cape on the DC. It's nice and straight to the point. It's a nice short cape. It has that look like it's blowing in the wind. It has that beautiful yellow S in the back. And again, getting a closer look at the hair on the DC, it looks natural. It looks like it's blowing in the wind instead of looking something like something that was, you know, came out of Gumby and was shoved on somebody's head and tried to rudimentary sculpt into hair. There's no points. They're all blunt, like circles. They're all rounded at the end. And yeah, it's not a good figure. It's really, really not a good figure. And don't get me wrong, Mattel has put out some quality figures. They gave us a lot of figures in the DC UC line that never would have been produced if it was just up to DC themselves. So I don't... Every one of these DC has killed Mattel, but that's just because DC is the owner of these licenses, and they're the ones that, you know, they want to put out the best representation they can, whereas Mattel was mass producing these for a more widespread audience, for kids to play with. Where DC Direct, I mean, most times, very rarely can you find these in a general retail store. I've never seen a DC Direct or DC Collectibles in any chain store, other than Barnes & Noble, which is not like a chain retail store, it's a bookstore with oddities in it. So I have seen DC Collectibles there, but in Walmart, Target, even Toys R Us, I have never seen a DC Direct or DC Collectibles figure. It's basically regaled to comic book stores, specialty stores, bookstores, things of that nature. So they're catering to a much smaller audience, and I can see why they would take more time in making a figure that is awesome to behold, instead of Mattel just trying to get something out to have a representation of the character out there for mass production and retail sales. So I don't want to diss on Mattel. They gave us a lot, but in all of these Mattel versus DC videos, all 5 episodes now, DC has won. Hands down, the closest one I would say was the Batman's, the Arkham Origins. The DC Direct, or DC Collectibles, did of course win, but I really do like that Mattel version as well. So there you guys have it. Mattel vs. DC Episode 5, Battle of the Supergirls. Winner, DC Direct. This, of course, is Rez the Collector. I want to thank you guys for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe. Look for more of these when I pick... whatever. Look for more of these types of videos, reviews, lots of stuff coming up on my channel. Go ahead and watch for those, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.